SimilarWeb is able to show you all of this data because we have the largest and most diverse data set in the world. We measure over 200 million devices with our global international panel. And we also buy data from ISPs, giving us another 200 million devices. In total, we see more than 1% of all online activities across 60 countries every day. And what this allows us to do is build very, very accurate models and representations of what's going on online to a depth that you would never before imagine. Dee will go into that further during her presentation. The way that we get our data is we collect data from three main sources: our panel. We crawl the web and build our own maps updated every day through the ISP data, and then we clean and categorize that data to the point that we're collecting 5 billion different web events every day. And then on top of that, we hone all of our estimations and our models using our learning set, where over 150,000 websites and apps have connected their analytics directly to us. And we take that and we process that and we output that every day to give you the insights that you need to compete in the digital world. Some of the customers who trust SimilarWeb data and use it to drive their digital strategies can be seen here, including leading players. We also work very strongly with the gaming industry, and Dee will talk more about that in a little bit. And with that, I want to hand over the presentation to Dee, and she's going to start by talking about how you guys can map out your competitors and discover sometimes even the competitors you didn't know existed. So without further ado, here's Dee, and take it away, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I just wanted to to give you kind of a preface of why we're doing this. We have a large portfolio of clients, actually, that are from the gaming industry that use our product, both from the free version and also the paid version. And we're starting to see a lot of different questions that arise, so we decided to do this as one of our first industry-specific webinars. We hope to have quite a few more in the future. We actually, last January, we attended ICE, as well as the London Affiliate Convention, so we're quite familiar with the industry. And just to give you an idea of what the purpose of this webinar is, we want to give you guys the tools necessary to conduct competitive intelligence research systematically and give you the opportunity to identify your competitors, their strong points, and their strong points and their weaknesses.
If anybody's having trouble with audio, please just raise your hand in the webinar. There's a little raise hand app, and we'll try and chat with you.
And so we're going to show you how to map out your competitors and delve into specific examples of how we've uncovered successful strategies by some of the known operators that you guys either work for or consider your competitors. Just to give you a little bit of context as well, is we kept the focus mainly in the UK market, but from what you'll be able to see, the methodology can be applied to basically any market and any industry as well. So just keep that in mind as we go through the presentation. So mapping out your competitors. So one of the things that we wanted to outline is there's actually 3 different ways that we're able to map out competitors. We have the industry, the gambling industry as a whole, and you can see kind of who's the biggest brand, who's sending the most traffic. But you also have within the industry, everything's divided into products. You've got poker, casino, bingo, sports. So when you're mapping out your competitors, it's also important to kind of keep that in mind, and if you want to compare apples to apples, so you compare poker to poker, sports to sports. There's also another level when you're mapping out your competitors, and that's market and region, because you might have a competitor in one market, but that competitor is irrelevant in a different market where you'll find that the competitive landscape is a little bit different. So just kind of think about that. When you're doing your own competitive intelligence research, you want to make sure that you're benchmarking yourself against the right competitors. So we're going to start with this slide. this basically is, using our industry analysis tool, this gives you a bit of a high-level view of the gambling industry. This actually is like a snapshot of the month of March. The thing that I want to highlight here is you can get an idea of, whether increases or decreases in overall traffic. You can see with the different subcategories, you can see, which subcategories are the most popular. Obviously, sports is going to be the biggest category, followed by lottery, and you can also get an idea of what countries generated the most traffic. And as you can see here, the UK is the biggest market within the gambling vertical, and you'll probably be surprised to see the United States there. But one of the things that's important to understand is, lottery is still, for us, considered kind of under the gambling category, and you're going to see, that's going to affect a great deal of, U.S. traffic coming from there. So just keep that in mind. So we at SimilarWeb, we've got this tool called Top Website Rankings. We rank our websites according to traffic metrics, and we also rank according to engagement. And taking those two things into consideration, we're able to give you kind of a list of top websites within a category or within a subcategory. So the way we started was we wanted to look at the gambling industry as a whole and understand the volume of traffic that's coming and going to different websites. So if we don't filter to any sort of subcategory, this is the breakdown of the traffic from February 2015 to 2016. We took the traffic for that year, we summed it all up, and here you can see Bet365 is the biggest gambling website in the industry. You'll see that coming up a lot in different markets. Bet365 is the industry leader, and you can see that there's lotto websites, there's sports betting websites, casino websites, and even some publishers on this list. But if you want to now start to isolate who your competitors are, you want to kind of dive in a little bit deeper and start looking at the subcategories. So if we look at the casino market, for example, now this isn't filtering to any sort of country or anything like that. We see that 888.com, 888 Casino, is the traffic leader for the casino vertical, followed by Sunmaker, Sunnyplayer, Casino.com, Bovada. By the way, you guys will be able to download this presentation once the webinar is finished. You'll get a notification. We'll upload this so you can actually take a deeper look into this ranking. But the thing that I want to highlight here is what's interesting is that 888 Casino is a global brand. Sunmaker and Sunnyplayer, actually, they're predominantly a German brand, and they're actually sending a lot of their traffic from display, so it creates a little bit of a kind of like a an over influx of traffic, basically, that would affect the traffic. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, it's not enough to just look at casino traffic. We want to look at casino traffic in a specific market, and therefore we filter down to top sites within the German market. Now you can do this for any country that we have a filter for. We have a filter for over 60 or 80 countries, something like that. So you'd be able to do that. The thing, you can actually even filter in our free version. Okay, so you can go to top sites and you can filter any country using our free version or the paid version. It doesn't matter. So here in Germany, we've narrowed down a little bit more the competitive landscape, and we can see who the top players are within the German market. And what you may notice is that 888.com, while it was the traffic leader in the previous slide for casino traffic, in the German market, Sunmaker and Sunnyplayer have traffic leadership. So again, filtering down to a specific region had the effect of changing a little bit the competitive landscape. So now, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a treat, in order to we actually wanted to look at products individually. So we actually broke it down to, you saw casino, but we actually also broke it down to poker, bingo, and sports. So here you can see the breakdown of the top websites according to traffic for poker. Now, one thing you might notice, and you might ask yourself, how is it that PokerStars is the third biggest website rather than the first biggest website? Because if you come from the poker world or you come from the industry, you might know, or have heard that PokerStars is the biggest poker website in the world. They have the most players, have the highest liquidity. So what we're trying to show here, or to say here, is that, the biggest doesn't always mean the most. What it means is that while Stars has the most players, they don't necessarily send the most traffic. It is probably trying harder to catch up. They're buying more traffic. They're investing more in their online marketing, and that may affect the numbers as well. So keep that in mind. This is top sports sites, and what you can see here that stands out, at least in my mind, is that Bet365 has domination over the rest of the competitors. But what's really interesting is the amount of traffic that Bet365 has almost amounts to the sum of all the rest of its competitors. So they're very, very obviously successful, very well known, and they're getting the most traffic. So I think that's kind of an interesting slide. This is the layout for bingo websites. The first website, you can see, I think it's an illegal, in the U.S. operating website. Foxy Bingo is the second biggest. Jackpot Joy and Gala Bingo is being third. The one thing that you might notice here that's interesting is that of all the other websites that all the other products that we've looked at, Bingo actually has the biggest distribution of mobile traffic. So, the percentage-wise, it's actually an almost 50% mobile product. Now, when we talk about mobile, I just want to iterate that actually we're talking about mobile web. So, at SimilarWeb, we're able to measure both desktop traffic and mobile web traffic. And so keep that in mind when we talk about mobile, we're talking about mobile web. And now, when we looked at kind of the different products and who are the competitors, the point I want to iterate here is that actually geography is extremely important. There aren't two markets that are the same. So if we look at the UK market, we see a list of competitors. We've got Bet365, William Hill, Sky Bet, Betfred. These guys are huge competitors in the UK. But if we look at the German market, Bet365 still has market domination. But then we've got other brands that weren't necessarily competitors in the UK. So, for example, bwin is the third biggest brand in Germany. Tipico is a local brand in Germany. William Hill is only the third biggest brand in Germany. So keep that in mind when you're doing competitive research, that when you're comparing yourself to one of your competitors, it's also important to take market into account. Because what an operator does in one market may not be the same as what they do in another market. So just keep that in mind. This is just an interesting slide to give you an idea of the breakdown of traffic coming to the site. Now, again, this is traffic. Thing that you have to keep in mind, we're not measuring players, we don't measure conversions. So everything that we see is traffic coming and going from the website. So you can see that Bet365, actually their biggest country is Poland, followed by Spain, followed by Germany, whereas William Hill UK is the biggest market, bwin Germany is the biggest market, and Ladbrokes UK is actually the majority of the market. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're analyzing the specific websites, whether it's a competitor, whether it's an affiliate, whether it's a publisher. Definitely check out the geographic makeup of that traffic. Now, you guys, as we talked about a little bit about multi-product or individual products and kind of isolating in comparing web product to product, you have many sites in the industry that actually, have one domain, but many products on the domain. So, we give the example of Eurogrand, which is a standalone casino, versus William Hill, where on that domain you've got sports, you've got casino, you've got bingo and poker as well. So we want to kind of outline this example specifically to show you, to also keep that in mind. If you're a casino brand and you want to compare William Hill or Ladbrokes casino performance, you have to understand that the traffic that you're looking at has to be differentiated specifically. So I'll give the example of Ladbrokes.com. So if we're looking at Ladbrokes, what you can see that it's categorized as a sports website. We can see the amount of visits. This is filtered for the last 6 months, and this is all the traffic that came to Ladbrokes.com, including Ladbrokes' subdomain, so poker, casino, sports, etc. But if we want to start to get an idea how much casino traffic or how much bingo traffic, we have to look a little bit deeper. So what we have with SimilarWeb, we actually can show you the subdomains that these websites have. And so not only which subdomains they're using, but also how much traffic is going to that subdomain. So what you can see here is that the majority of the traffic is going to lp.ladbrokes.com, and then sports.ladbrokes.com, and then it breaks down into other products, casino, games, bingo, etc. What we can infer from here, and you guys know the industry and you can probably do the same even just from a Google search, is that most of the acquisition traffic will probably go through lp.ladbrokes.com. So keep that in mind when you're doing your analysis. Do you want to compare yourself to Ladbrokes.com, or do you want to isolate the domain? So just when you're doing your research and when you're starting to identify, who your real competitors are and how much of that traffic are you competing with, keep that in mind as well. So if we actually go one step deeper, we can actually go in. So before, in the previous slide, we looked at the subdomains, and we saw that much of the traffic was going to lp.ladbrokes.com. We can take it a step further. We can actually look at Ladbrokes' popular pages, and we can go and see how much traffic is going to individual pages. And what we did here is we filtered for the casino keyword. You can see on top that we filtered, we typed in casino, and we were able to get all the casino-related pages. The traffic the traffic ended up coming to. We exported to Excel. We're able to export things from the SimilarWeb platform into Excel, and we were able to see that about 12% of Ladbrokes' traffic goes to casino-related landing pages. So this kind of gives you a little bit more of an insight as to what the breakdown would be for casino, poker, bingo, sport, even though they all sit on the same domain. So just keep that in mind. So I kind of want to take a step back and summarize or talk a little bit about what we went over so far. Why did we show you this? We really believe that if you know your competitors by name is not enough. Like, you guys know the industry, you know more or less who you're competing with, but you don't know necessarily to what extent in terms of traffic, because after all, you're buying traffic. And SimilarWeb helps you kind of map that out. We showed you a little bit about how to systematically map out your competitors to help you understand which traffic you're competing for. The thing that we'll stress, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later, is really important to compare apples to apples. So if you're comparing geography, you want to compare similar markets. If you're comparing products, you want to compare similar products. And one more thing that we'll add here is that platforms also important. So if you're looking at a no download only casino site or a download only poker website, that will affect the numbers as well, because once in sports, players are going to come back to the website, and in poker, once they download, they don't necessarily come back to the website. So keep that in mind as well. And the thing that we'll constantly repeat as our mantra is that you want to keep an eye on the right competition within the right market if you want to stay ahead of the game. So that's kind of the takeaway from here. So we talked a little bit about how to map out your competitors, who your competitors are. And now we want to go into specific examples of exactly, how to kind of pick up those little nuggets of information that might help you push your business forward. So we've kind of identified a few different methodologies that'll help you, if you want to gain more partners, or if you want to understand search strategies or display strategies. So that's kind of the next section that we're going to cover. So what we're going to talk about here is display and referral landing page destinations, and analyze popular pages. Okay. So if you recall in the previous example, we talked about Ladbrokes.com being a multi-product offering that sits on one domain. So if we look at Ladbrokes.com and we look at their October to March traffic, we can see overall total visits to the website, and then we can get an idea of the traffic sources that they used, or that the traffic went to the site. So there's going to be direct traffic, so returning customers / customers that are very, very familiar with the brand. You're going to have referral traffic, so websites that referred a user to Ladbrokes.com. You've got organic search, and you've got display, organic and paid search, and you've got display. In the next slide, you'll notice that if we go to lp.ladbrokes.com and we analyze it individually, you'll see that the distribution of traffic sources changes significantly. So looking at just lp.ladbrokes.com, isolating that domain, we can see, get further proof that obviously it's a domain that's being used for acquisition campaigns. And we can see here that about 45% of traffic comes from display ads, it being the biggest source of traffic. So what do? We start to analyze, okay? So through SimilarWeb, we can see actually the traffic sources over time and try to understand, patterns of increases and decreases. And what we can see here is that in October, referrals went down and actually display traffic went up. So both, Ladbrokes increased their resources in display, but they also decreased the referrals or websites that they were using. But under referrals, you might find affiliates, you might find anything that we haven't identified as an ad network, just to give you some background. You can also see the breakdown of ad networks that they work with, and when you actually go into the platform, you'll be able to see, a more detailed breakdown of it. But what we wanted to outline is to actually go one step deeper. We wanted to understand, okay, what categories are different operators targeting for their media campaigns. So we take this example. What we did is we filtered to websites that came under the games category, so not gambling, but just games category, to understand is Ladbrokes using this category to generate traffic. And what we found that they do generate traffic from this category. They work with a number of publishers, which you can see within the platform. You can export to Excel, and you can analyze. But what we wanted to understand is whether they have room to grow. And one of the things that we did is we decided that if you go into compare mode, we have the ability to actually now compare up to 5 websites and see, who's getting the most traffic from which sources. So what we did is we compared lp.ladbrokes.com to William Hill's most popular domain, which was static.williamhill.com, that we've noticed they also use as kind of their acquisition domain, and found that William Hill is investing a lot more money in display traffic. But going back to our example of games websites that that Ladbrokes is targeting, we wanted to see, is William Hill also targeting games websites? And they do. As you can see, both of them are targeting, different game publishers and things like that. But actually, William Hill is working with a lot more publishers than Ladbrokes. And here now we have a list of potential partners or publishers or campaigns that Ladbrokes can run that they see that William Hill is running that possibly are successful. If we measure them over time, we're able to see, if these campaigns repeat themselves, and clearly they're working and they're worth chasing after. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing that we can also find when we're talking about a display campaign, because we know lp.ladbrokes.com is their acquisition destination URL, we can go into the popular pages and also see what landing pages they're using. So this is kind of a snapshot of February in the UK, and we can see the different landing pages and different campaigns that they were running. So the 50 free bet obviously is a recurring theme, but they return to target different games that were going on in the month. This is their casino landing page. This is their bingo landing page, and you can look through, and each month that will change, because each month they'll have used different landing pages depending on what campaign they're running. So the thing that I want to take away from here basically is that, if you want to hone in a little bit about where, where your competitors are sending traffic, you have to understand the structure of their domains. And once you understand the structure of the domains, you can do research on that specific domain, the subdomain as it goes. You can use SimilarWeb to look at which traffic sources they're using to acquire traffic, and while doing that, you can also uncover landing pages that get the most traffic. There's actually 2 ways to understand which landing pages are being used for a campaign. We show that to you in 2 different sections, but in the popular section, you can actually see the percentage that went to each landing page. So now I'm going to go into referral traffic and mobile trends. And one of the things is looking, again, mapping out your competitors and understanding how a competitor overtook another one unexpectedly. So this is a map of the casino landscape in the UK. So it's the total traffic that came to the site between February 15 and February 16. And what you can see is that, 888 and 32Red are basically the market leaders in terms of traffic in the UK for casino. So we were curious, okay, what's going on here? And we took it one step deeper. And what we can see is that it has the biggest share of desktop traffic. But what we also noticed is that 32Red is actually getting a huge amount of mobile traffic, and they're actually dominating the mobile web arena. So that's kind of we found that as an interesting insight. We then looked at patterns of traffic. So we wanted to look over time, and you can see that 888, was investing a lot of money between March and June in getting traffic, and then all of a sudden the traffic dropped, while 32Red kind of remained steady and basically took the lead. So we wanted to come from the direction of understanding what happened to 888's traffic, where did the drop happen. So what we did is we mapped out the different traffic sources for desktop for 888, and what we can see is display traffic went down significantly, So not just display traffic. Referral traffic also went down. Direct traffic went down, so users coming directly to the website. And not just that, even organic traffic, search traffic went down as well. But what's interesting in this slide is that we don't actually see how 32Red took over, or as we saw, they remained steady, but they had more traffic from June. They had more traffic than 888. So that made us kind of look and see, okay, so where did they have a step over 888? And what we did is we isolated mobile traffic. So when we went into the SimilarWeb Pro and we looked at just the mobile traffic for that same time period, and we can see that actually 32Red significantly took over the mobile web space. They had a huge amount of traffic. They increased and remained steady through most of the year. Which led us to try and find out, okay, why is that? Where's the traffic coming from? And we actually went and we looked at 32Red's traffic sources. So we found two interesting things. One, we found that adult traffic makes for a great mobile traffic sources. And the other thing that we found was that 32Red is using a huge amount of publishers and potential websites that are sending mobile traffic that 888 is not utilizing or stopped utilizing or not utilizing enough. So that's something that if I were 888, I'd go and I'd actually try and revamp my mobile web strategy and see if there are potential publishers that I can make contact with and increase my traffic. So I want to kind of stop, and summarize what we talked about. And the thing that I want to stress here is that, oftentimes we have affiliate managers and media buyers who come and look to see, where to find new affiliates or where to find new partners, but it's not just the whole story. You have to look at the full picture. And so if you zoom out a little bit, you can see that actually it also matters not just which affiliates and which media companies or media networks to work with. It's also what platforms we get traffic from. So we must look at the full picture and isolate mobile web versus desktop. And having uncovered 32Red success in overtaking a competitor, we also were able to kind of show you guys how to get more partners or more publishers, how to target them or discover new publishers. And the next thing we want to talk about is search traffic. And here we want to use the example of Bet365 and William Hill and kind of what happened last year in 2015. And kind of along the way show you, the methodology that we used to get to it. So if we look at 2015 and we compare Bet365 to William Hill, we see that overall, as we've seen consistently with previous slides, is that Bet365 has the most traffic, as you can see from the slide. But that's not the whole picture. If we look at specific traffic channels and look at traffic between January 2015 and December 2015, we can actually see that William Hill dominated search over Bet365. So we were curious, okay, how did that happen? So what we did is we tried to identify trends by looking at just search traffic trends. And we looked at two specific periods where we saw where William Hill overtook Bet365. So one was in March and one was in October. And we isolated those time periods and looked to see if we can find anything interesting. So one of the things that we found, so you guys who come from the sports industry, you'll know that March last year was Cheltenham, and Cheltenham was the biggest event in sporting, and that's where you see the peak in traffic in general, both for William Hill and both for Bet365. And you can see actually that when targeting Cheltenham keywords, William Hill had won that the race for catching the most amount of traffic for Cheltenham keywords. Now we understand that search is also affected by offline campaigns and things like that, but here we can see how William Hill captured the most search traffic, and this is in contrast to where you can see that actually in 2015, in March 2015, Bet365 was the most search term driving traffic. If we go in a little bit deeper, so what we can see is that William Hill drove 50% more traffic using Cheltenham keywords than Bet365. But if we look at the breakdown of paid search, if we filter to Cheltenham-related keywords, we can see that William Hill also invested more money in targeting Cheltenham-related keywords. And not only that, we can also see that they used other search engines like Yahoo and Bing to gain momentum in search traffic. So it's kind of like it helps us understand, okay, where did the increase come from? The other period that we looked at was in October 2015, where we wanted to understand, what was the peak in search traffic. And one of the things we did, we isolated the month. And we sorted to the most trending keyword, meaning which is the keyword that had the biggest increase in traffic. And what we found was that the number one most increased and most searched term in October was esports betting, which saw a huge increase in traffic, in search traffic. Now, I'm not familiar so much with the esports betting, industry. So I did some research. What is esports betting and what happened in October? And what I found was that in October the League of Legends World Championship took place. And what was interesting to see was that there were many of the websites offering players a chance to bet on these events. But William Hill, as you can see here, actually was the only one that was able to basically capitalize the most on this traffic. So of all the League of Legends related keywords, you can see that William Hill captured 87% of the traffic, which is pretty significant. So not only is this interesting actually from a search perspective, for all of you affiliate managers and media buyers, you can understand now that these that there is an interest in esports betting, which is kind of an up-and-coming esports in general, which is an up-and-coming niche. And you can now start to look for affiliates and publisher sites and understand what events are going to happen around the year, and understand that there is a demand for that. And we were able to uncover that from the product. So what we have uncovered here. We like to take away the underdog is not always the underdog. So we saw that, while William Hill had less traffic than Bet365, in search they actually had more traffic. So a brand may not necessarily have the biggest share of traffic, but still dominate a specific channel. Also, zooming in on traffic peaks helps you identify, different reasons and useful insights as to why those what happened during that time if you identify those peaks. And finally, knowing search trends driving traffic can help you plan for the next year. So for all you search guys and all you media buyers, I would try and now understand what's the lineup, what are the biggest esport events, are you offering odds on your site, and if so, how to target from an SEO perspective or from an acquisition, affiliate media buying perspective. And the last thing that we want to kind of talk about is regulation and market research. So you guys know very well that the market is oftentimes volatile, and markets close and undergo regulation, and operators will pull out, and then they'll file for a license, and the whole process begins, and you have to decide, do you want to go in the market, do you not want to go in the market? So part of the information that you have available to you, obviously, is your own data for players that came from that country. What was their lifetime value? Is it worth investing in that market? But we want to show you kind of that we can also help you understand what's going on in the market before it launches. So one of the examples that we like to talk about is Brazil, because in December the House of Representatives introduced a bill that would possibly legalize gambling in the country. It's a highly coveted region especially for overseas betting sites. Unfortunately, maybe with recent impeachment developments, I'm not sure if it's going to happen anytime soon. But we wanted to give Brazil as an example. So when you're preparing for regulatory changes, you want to understand what you can do or using SimilarWeb is to understand who are the current players in the market and try and discover who's experienced signs of growth already. You can explore and benchmark traffic sources within that market. Where's the traffic coming from? Is it coming from display? Is it coming from search? Is it coming from media buying? And you can also gain insights from search metrics. Okay, so who's currently what are users searching today on the web, and what's driving sports traffic or is casino or poker traffic? And you can target publishers and websites relevant for your future market growth. So if you know that in a month Brazil is going to open, which, like we saw, is probably not going to happen anytime soon, but for argument's sake, then you can already start now planning who you're going to close deals with, who you're going to target, what websites, etc. So for argument's sake, we looked at the Brazil market today. And this is web traffic, total web traffic for Brazil for the month of March. And you can see that gambling is a very, very small percentage of the web, but a significant enough percentage of the web traffic. And then we went into gambling category and tried to understand, what were the traffic sources generating traffic. And what we can see is that, firstly, sports is the biggest category in Brazil, followed by lottery. And that most of the traffic today going to gambling-related websites actually comes from display advertising, and second to referrals. So if we just isolate the sports betting market, and we outline who are the biggest players, who's got presence in the market, we looked at March 2015 to March 2016, and we can see that, again, Bet365 has the biggest market share, followed by Referral.com, Dehose.com, WilliamHill.com, SportingBet, Betfair, Betson, and BetBoo. Now we looked at the year overall. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily mean all we're seeing is traffic. So this doesn't necessarily mean that any of the websites listed here are actually accepting players from Brazil. So it's just something that I want you guys to keep in mind. We're just monitoring the traffic that's coming and going to these sites. But what we can see here is actually the trend of growth. And we can see that following the December announcement of the House of Representatives that they're going to introduce a bill, obviously traffic was increasing already, but it took a huge jump since then. So it's something to keep in mind that there is something happening in the market already now. This graph is interesting because we actually looked at the 7 operators in the market. We looked at all the different websites in the Brazilian market and calculated their total market share. So what you can see is William Hill, for example, as they stopped, I think they pulled out of the Brazilian market and stopped accepting players, you can see that their market share has gone down. Bet365's market share has gone up. And then you've got some interesting newcomers like Referral that their market share has gone up. Betfair started generating traffic, whose market share has gone up, as well as BetBoost. So I think this graph is quite interesting to see kind of what's happening in the last 3 months, and as well as just kind of what's going to be happening moving forward until any decision would be made as to what direction the market is going to go. So this is another kind of useful negative information that you can understand, where the traffic is going, how much in comparison to other competitors, but also who's got the best engagement metrics, how many page visits, how long players are staying on the site. But not only that, you can also look at the distribution between mobile and desktop, and it looks like SportingBet has the biggest percentage of mobile traffic compared to desktop traffic. The other interesting thing to look at is, okay, where are these operators getting their traffic from? And the common thread here is we can see that referrals is still one of the biggest channels driving traffic to the sites, but also display traffic. And some are bigger in display than others. So Referral and Bet365, for example, invest a lot of money in display. So that's something to also keep in mind. And then you can go into the individual websites and uncover which traffic sources they're using. The other interesting thing is looking at search traffic and what can search traffic teach us. Now, search traffic is not a huge percentage of the total traffic generated to these sites, but it still gives us sort of like an understanding of what brands players are looking for. So in the last year, SportingBet had the biggest share of traffic, followed by Bet365, followed by Betfair. But in recent months, in the last month, in the month of February, William Hill was trending. This doesn't mean that this could change in the next month, and it could change the month after. But this gives you kind of an idea of what's going on in the market and what players are looking for. And finally, when we talk about if you're getting ready to go into a market and you want to start understanding, what kind of websites you want to target, what kind of deals you want to close, you want to know which sites are getting the most traffic outside of the gaming industry. So we give the example of, different sports websites or sports news websites that are ranked as top websites in Brazil. And you can now start and approach these sites, coupons, for example, or adult websites. You can see the biggest ones that are, popular in Brazil. So just to kind of summarize, what we've said so far is, or what we've said up till now is, you want to spend time researching the existing competitive landscape in order to decide, who are your competitors, and is it worth going into the market. You want to examine traffic highs and lows of your competitors to try and understand who's gaining momentum and who's actually moving away from the market. You also want to uncover successful traffic channels by looking at different traffic sources that your competitors that are currently in the market are using. You want to get some insights into the market, understanding search metrics. So who's got the biggest brand recognition today in the market driving search traffic. And finally, you want to start planning your growth strategy by understanding which third-party websites you want to start targeting, maybe close exclusive deals with, etc., in order to prepare for the market opening. So that's all we have for today. We wanted to hear from you guys if you have any questions. And for more information, you're always welcome to contact us directly. And whether existing or whether potential users of SimilarWeb, you're more than welcome to request, a specific demo that's, specific to your industry, and we can help you basically use the product to your advantage. So don't hesitate to contact us regarding that.
Thank you, Dee. Very, very informative. I said at the beginning that we would have some time for Q&A. I have some questions here. If you have questions, you can continue to chat them over through the chat box. But let's get started with some of the ones that were asked already, because maybe I see some overlap with a few questions. It might be relevant to the whole group. So the first question, Dee, is does mobile web traffic include traffic that goes to mobile apps?
So it's a complicated answer. The general answer is no. Basically, we measure mobile apps. We actually have a mobile app measurement tool as well. However, in the gaming market, it's a little bit more difficult because in Google Play does not allow you to advertise or to promote gambling apps. So most people today market Android users. They market through a landing page, and then you download the app directly. So we aren't able to, because we show majority of the data we show is Google Android data. We don't actually have data on gaming applications. So the mobile web traffic that we see could be traffic that are going to mobile-specific landing pages, and then from there either the iOS app or they download the Android application, sports or being a casino, whatever. But once the download happens, we don't show that data. But if it's mobile web traffic, then yeah, we do show it.
So you kind of answered the second question, is do you have stats for mobile apps? And then somebody else is asking, what is the name of the mobile app analysis tool? And basically, our mobile app analysis is part of SimilarWeb. It's an additional add-on feature in that it works in two levels. The first level is that you get access to all of the App Store information, where you can see how app pages are marketed to, how they receive their traffic, top keywords for App Store optimization, ASO. And then the second sort of add-on is the actual app engagement, where you can look at any app and see how many people are actively using it, what's the retention rate, what's the time on app, and that's for any app, again, on Android. Next question is related to media buying. Somebody's asking how we define or how do we differentiate display referrals and media buying in SimilarWeb?
So basically, in referrals and media buying, basically anything that goes through a third-party ad network that we've identified goes to display section. So, if any link is being served through a third-party ad network, you'll see it in the display section. We haven't always mapped out all the ad networks in the world. We're constantly working on improving it. So sometimes you'll have some spillage going into referrals. So sometimes you'll find media campaigns that are appearing under referrals. So keep that in mind. But overall, display is anything that goes through an ad network.
Okay. There are I think that's pretty much it for questions, because a lot of them were the similar question. Somebody's asking how can we do better affiliate, or where they can find where affiliates are being used. I'll let you answer this one.
So in terms of affiliation, if you go into the referral section, any affiliate link that refers a user from website A to website D will appear in referrals. So you'll be able to find affiliates in that section. We can't always identify, exactly is it an affiliate deal or is it a media deal that's on a website. If we see that, user went from point A to point B and not through a network, it goes into referrals. But when you go into the referral section, you can actually filter by categories, or you can look at different, there's like loads and loads of pages of data, of websites that refer traffic. What I would say is, A, to filter to categories. So, for example, if you want to see all the referring sites that fall under the gambling category, you just filter to those gambling sites. The other things that I would say is oftentimes affiliate websites. When I speak about affiliate websites, they're content-specific websites, so websites that are either sports-related, casino, poker, bingo. They'll have less traffic than, say, a big publisher, a big website, that gets a lot of like news readership and returning customers. So what I always encourage people to do is export everything to Excel, or just explore the different pages within the platform, and not just kind of stick to the first and second page where the site's setting the majority of the traffic, but not necessarily the best traffic will appear. So you have to have the patience and the motivation to actually go and look at each site individually. The site might not send a lot of traffic, but might send really good traffic. So keep that in mind. I hope that answers the question.
With that, because we're running out of time, I am going to cut off questions, but I would encourage everyone, if you have additional questions, to email swebinars@similarweb.com. You can see the email up on your screen. And we will be posting a recording of this webinar and presentation. They'll be available for download at similarweb.com. We'll tweet it out. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Bye.
Bye.